Good morning, everybody.
Hello.
We are both in the same state again, which is a good thing. And so we thought this morning we'd talk about sort of inner work and vows. And so really we should be on the vows lesson this week, but I thought we would like still do another combo and just sort of see how the two flow together. Because I know that they're really important for us. Like the two of them together are important for us because part of my own personal inner work is being able to connect with Eric and so I thought we would talk about that and also talk like what? Okay, there you go. And it said it was trying to connect. That's really weird. Anyway, so did you want to talk first about some of the things that you had going on this week? Sort
Well,
of how. Go ahead.
well, we've been examining how um, when inner work isn't, when we're not on top of it, how it can cause problems, and how I was really scattered this week, and I let some things really hook me, and some things really stress me out, and then it was making me grouchy.
And what things were those? Because I think it's important to talk about specifically. Because you were talking about Facebook. You were talking about how Facebook really like you had to like unfollow some people, and I think that when we think that our social media doesn't hook us, we're wrong. I think that when we read something that like totally gets in our crawl,
Well,
it
yeah,
can ruin
because
your day,
yeah, because I
regardless of what it
I
is.
step back and I go, why am I letting people that are complete strangers tell me I'm a horrible person or I'm crazy, and why do I care?
Well, that and you
And
even
then,
unfollowed somebody that you'd been friends with since college.
well, then I have to go through, and I've had to unfriend a lot of people that I know,
Right.
and not to get into a whole lot of details, but I start to realize that I've had friends and I know people who their ideas would essentially result in us living a Mad Max existence, and uh,
Yikes.
and I'm
Good
not
movie.
sure.
Bad existence.
Well, I'm not sure like how that's okay, and so then I get to this place was like I know some people that are monsters. We had somebody that was a family member that that put up this meme
Oh yeah.
about putting bombs in Muslim prayer rugs and how profits would be soaring, and I was like, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah. No. It's. I think a lot of people just. I think sadly they like copy stuff on Facebook, post stuff on Facebook, like stuff on Facebook, and they don't think about it. They don't think about, I might like this over here, but if you like something that that a company put there that a Facebook personality put out, it doesn't matter what else they put out. You still liked them. And so it'll show up in your feed. Melissa Nielsen liked XYZ. So you better make sure that when you like something, you like all their stuff. Because if you don't, you could be really shocked at what ends up in the feed of people.
Well, and then there was different groups or news sources that were about typically harmless things, like something that's normally about movies, but then somehow in the last month it's taken a turn where it started making fun of things that I understood was accurate or true, and
Sure.
they were talking about things that I wasn't the reason I was going to them in the
Right.
first place, and
They
so
sort
then
of switch their platforms up
and then it
yeah.
was like then I was feeling like they were personally attacking me, and it's like, okay, this isn't cool either. So I every now and then I have to go through and go, who are the people and organizations that are not making me feel very good, and
Totally.
then I
Totally. And Shannon says, my job is on Facebook, and this week it's been making me cry. I've had to take a step back and realize I can't help everyone. Yep. I mean, I think that's really hard. And my job with Waldorf Essentials, um, I'm on there, but I'm really careful. So about once, maybe twice a week, I actually go through the news feed because I want to see what people that I'm working with are doing that I'm not hearing about in the groups that I'm moderating. But other than that, I don't ever look at the news feed. I'm just working with people in our groups, and that's like super helpful to me because then I'm not inundated with that. And then I do have a personal Facebook that's just people that I like. like that are really close to me, that if they said something to offend me, they know I would call them out. And so that's really helpful. But you've got the one Facebook, and um, Facebook cannot be a fun place. And we put our business back on Instagram, and somebody said, "I'm so glad you did that. I'm so tired of Facebook. Thank you for being on Instagram." And I hadn't really thought about it because of the way I use Facebook. I hadn't really thought about the way everybody else uses Facebook. And I think that it can be a great tool, but I also think that it can be a great place to I don't know, tell everybody what you ate for dinner, what you're what you're arguing with your spouse about, what you're like. You can always tell when there's a couple on Facebook they're having a fight. Oh, my husband. And I go, why would you tell the world about that? Don't do that.
Or you get the cryptic, like, this was the worst day ever.
Oh, yes.
And then you're like, then your imagination runs wild. Like, what in the world is going on? And then I realize, no, that's what they're trying to spread the drama. So
yeah. We have a melancholy friend and that you've had since you were in high school.
Yeah, and there's times where it's like, he's not been making me feel bad or upset, but there's times it's like, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot
no
pole.
kidding. Because he doesn't say, Eric, you're making me feel bad, or Eric, come and fix my problem. Because, before we really learned how to work with melancholy people, it's really easy for clerics to try to fix it all. I try to fix it all. Don't try to fix it all. Because then the melancholy person gets mad. When you try to fix it for them, they get mad. And so it's easier to just like support or better to just, especially if it's on Facebook, to not say anything.
They're in that pain place.
They are.
And they're
and you
kind
can't
of
feed
wallowing in it, or they're...
You can't feed it.
No.
Michael says, we're here but in the car in tourist traffic. Welcome, Michael and Luce.
I mean, one way I've used Facebook is a way to save time if there's groups or things I'm interested in knowing what's up.
Right.
You can find out really quick and scroll through, but then there's...
And I think that's the best use of Facebook. Like I said, I'm only on there for the groups that I moderated.
Well, and I've been done a few times and like allowed myself to get into an argument, and which is really
Doesn't
pointless.
usually end well. But Waldorf moms know how to do that because there's a lot of Waldorf moms fighting on Facebook.
And then it gets into personal attacks and extreme opinions that involve like extreme punishments.
It does.
And then it's like, wait a minute. It's like that scene in Anchorman where he goes, that sure escalated quickly. It's like
Yeah. Well, I do think, because I think that a lot of people just don't even think about what's going on the other side. So I do think that, like, as part of your inner work, and as a challenge from us to you for this week, examine your social media and examine how many times this week you felt great about social media or something you read, even if it's just a cat video, and how many times you felt really crappy, like whether it be, and I'm not talking about when you read the news. Oh, there's a flood here, and I know that there's always stuff going on around the world, whether it be flooding in Louisiana or fires in California. We've got friends that have been like part of that, and thankfully those are all under control. But like, it doesn't matter what it is. Of course, you want to know the news, but especially I think if you are melancholy and you get really pulled down by that, give yourself permission to walk away and give yourself permission to say, just like Shannon said, I can't help everybody. And also give yourself permission to not follow the news channels. I used to follow Channel 10 San Diego News, and then I don't know, people make fun of me because I don't watch the news. The internet will tell me when I log in, Google will tell me that something I need to know, or we'll find out some other way. But I don't. We try to be very selective about what we watch and what we see, and I think that's super helpful. Blythe says, I've been using an app to track what I use on my phone, and it had been eye-opening. I have things to work on. You know what? What's the app? Because I think that would be a really good app maybe for everybody to sort of think about, because I do think that it's super easy. Because okay, so you're sitting at a stoplight that's extra long, or you're waiting for a train, or you're sitting with your kids and your kids are busy. I think it's super easy to try to to pull up Facebook and see what everybody's doing. And I've been trying to personally myself lately just instead of using Facebook, just use Messenger. If I want to know what my friends are doing, I have a really dear friend that's in New York for the summer, and we miss her dearly. So I would rather just, instead of looking at her Facebook feed, I'd rather just send her a note and say, I miss you. And so, like, changing our habits, I think is super important. Blythe says the app is called Moments. We'll have to look at that. But I do sort of issue that to you as a challenge this week. See, Nicole says, I try to use social media as a tool. Absolutely. I think that's what, when I talk to moms about how they use Facebook, that's what I think you should do. And, I don't even go on Facebook to look at what's in the groups. I have it set up so it goes right to my email. And that way, I'm not scrolling through and scrolling through. You can switch the notifications in each group to have it send you notifications to your email. And you can have it send you notifications for everybody that posts, and you can have it send you notifications for just your friends that post. And so that makes it super easy for me. I never sit and go through the groups. Now, every now and again, Facebook has a hiccup and doesn't send you stuff. Like last week, I wasn't getting any notifications for anything. But it actually kind of worked out because I had a really busy week last week. I didn't have any time. So God must have known, hey, this lady needs no Facebook notifications this week. Thankfully, I have like moderators to help me with the groups that I'm working in. But I think if you use it as a tool and you try to, just use it for that. My personal Facebook, that I just use it to take pictures of kids for people that don't live with us and just sort of keep them up to date on those things. But I think you should be really careful with Facebook. I think it can be a time suck. I think that can also, like you, make you mad.
Yeah.
And cranky.
Well, another issue that came up was about 5 or 6 weeks ago, I took the car into Jiffy Lube.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, you got a fuel leak and you need to take care of that right away. And there's some other things going on. You need to take care of that right away. And I have this mechanic down the street.
But wait, that was after a letter you got in January, right?
Oh, yeah. I had a letter that said that they'd extended the warranty on some things that had to do with the fuel tank for 15 years. And there's been times where
we have a 2004 Dodge Grand Caravan.
There's been a few times where I fill up the car and I drive away from the gas station and the car stalls, and it described the issue exactly. And I called the dealership, and then there was these communication snafus, and they were confusing. And then I talked to one guy, but I didn't remember who it was, and I called back and unless you can tell me who you talked to, we can't help you. And then like out of the blue one day, I got a random call. Oh, your part's in,
and that was like last month.
Yeah,
that was like at the end of last month because we were at Comic-Con.
Yeah, but I have this mechanic that I was trusting down the street, and I would take it in. He's like, "There's no fuel leak. There's no this or that, or I don't know what they're talking about." And then the other day, because he would say, "Come," I would fix his computer, and then he would give me a discount. And I had it in there, and he had on the rack. He's like, "Oh yeah, there's a fuel tank. It's very bad. You could blow up."
I think one of the themes for us this week, and it's something that we needed, was sort of examining relationships that we trust in a couple of different situations. And I think that when we have, when we have tumultuous weeks or tumultuous months, I try to step back and go, what's the common thread here? Because there's something we're supposed to learn. And, we had some business wranglings that we had to step back and look at our trust issues with. We had this situation where we've been trusting this mechanic for like 3 years and we didn't think he'd steer us wrong. And then we had, I had a couple of other things. So I definitely think it's about like figuring out where those things, like we had stuff with family while we were gone, like all trust stuff. And so I do think that it's like worthy of us stepping back and going, okay, there's an underlying lesson here. And it's not that you shouldn't trust. I just think that we can sometimes take relationships for granted, and we have to like re-examine boundaries, Yeah. In the situation in the car, it's amazing how the universe works though. So because he got that letter in January and the dealer already ordered the part, we don't have to pay anything for like a $2,000 repair. And the car's sitting there now. And
well, the other issue too is that there's things that don't seem right about the car. Besides that, the things that he's worked on,
Oh,
and
the
things,
mechanic,
and I
yeah.
just was like, I would drive around and I just would not feel secure, and I would feel like the car was just gonna fall apart or blow up or whatever. And so then it just made me on edge because I got conflicting information and I was on edge. I didn't feel like it was safe.
No, he was grumpy. He was
And
grumpy.
I think the lesson was if you're feeling like that, you got to nip it in the bud. Things aren't just going to
Absolutely.
go away because you would like them to go away.
Yeah.
And if
No, I
somebody's
know.
telling you something that doesn't feel right, is you got to get to the bottom of it because there's things like that where I
But I
like
also
if I got a
think,
handle on it, my attitude would have been a whole lot better
well,
lately.
that's what I was going to say. I think that that's what we came down with was that because of his temperament, he tends to work things over and over in his mind. And in my temperament, I'm like, just fix it and get done. And so we had to come to a happy medium because I'm just like, fix it and get done. And he's like, but it's still broken. And so we definitely had to come to a place where I was able to say, okay, it's broken, but you need to fix it and get done. And you finally forced yourself and you fixed it and you took it yesterday
I feel a
and
lot better
you feel
now,
better.
but yeah,
And so
I
like
was
it's
not
about
fun to live
figuring
with for a
out,
little while.
it's about sort of figuring out where that spot is, like
Yeah.
where the yeah,
So would you say my attitude's better since yesterday?
yeah,
Good.
yeah. So the children would say the same thing. So I do think but that I think is such a huge part of inner work. It's about knowing ourselves. That's why we started off with temperament, because I think when we understand our temperament, it really informs our triggers. Often, it informs like then our triggers make more sense, and then it allows us to sort of dig deeply into our inner work in a different way. And I think that sort of because I wanted to talk about this being like an inner work and vows week, even though I think everybody should really, if you haven't started on vows, start on vows this weekend, so that we can really talk about it more next week. But one of the things, like, because I was gone for 5 days, it, we didn't, even though I was gone, we still spoke on the phone every day and had texting, but we needed that connection. And so, you know, sex is more about connecting, not just connecting physically. There's a spiritual connection there. And so that if that's what I'm hoping everybody can find in their relationships, is that spiritual connection. Because when we came back, or when I came back, it's been all kinds of crazy since then. And part of what keeps us both in check emotionally is having that time together. And it's not happened as often as it should this
Well,
week.
what's funny is like since we've been back, kids that you were with the whole week were like up your bum and and
I just spent 5 days with just you.
and
Do you think maybe I could like
I
sit
was
back?
just with
No.
Sam for a week, and it was like he was making all these demands on my time. And it's like, you guys have had us
Yeah.
exclusively for a week, and you guys need to like go.
They sort of get into a rut of we're just the ones to come to, and so they have to sort of work back into their rhythm. And our rhythm worked really well. So if you follow us on our homeschooling side, I did a video on Monday. One of the things that I think is really important when you're trying to step back into your rhythm after vacation is try to, if you're flying, like I flew in and I got here at 10, and we stepped right back into things. He picked us up from the airport. We went to the chiropractor. We did the things that we normally do on Mondays, and that was super helpful. And I think it's really easy when you come back from vacation to go, oh, I need a couple of days to recuperate from vacation. Don't do it. Just jump right back in there, because that's when then you're on day 3 and you're like, oh, my rhythm is so off. But if you just step right back into it, it's so much easier. And you just sort of have to like force yourself to get over the hump of being a little chaotic. So Nicole says, I'm so grateful the lesson was on cleaving this week. With it being tumultuous, because I know you personally have had a struggling week, and so having that connection with Ryan, I'm hoping was super helpful, and like reminding you of, because it does say in scripture, whether or not you go down that road or not, it says you leave your parents and you cleave to your partner. And there are so many situations that we see, that we work with, where there's still a lot of cleaving to parents going on. And were
Well,
you gonna say
I
something?
had a friend that got divorced because he would go and vent about his wife to his mother, and then mom's going to I'm going to protect my baby place, and then she would fight with his wife all the time, and then his wife's like, "Why is he not standing up for me?"
Right,
And it was
right.
because
Because there
he'd
were two things
already
going on.
he was fueling the hate
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, and I watched that happen, but that was pretty much the sole reason. If he hadn't gone and vented to his mom all the time, and
Well, and I think that that happens in so many different like ways. Is in that like I was even thinking about what I went through this weekend, where we sort of had to Eleanor. We were sort of in a family situation that all of a sudden turned weird, and I love my family dearly, like dearly, like you don't even know. I love my mom and I worked through so many different obstacles. I love her to death, and I love my stepdad, like he's my dad, I love him like crazy. He's been my dad since I was 19 years old, and so and I'm old. I'm like so that's more than 20 years. So I love them a lot, but they do have some habits that were really sort of like not cool. And but we were in their home, and it was really making Ellie super uncomfortable. And the kids, it's easy for me to sort of hold the space and shield the little ones. But even my 17-year-old son was there, and he was feeling weird, and so it was sort of a weird situation. And Ellie was really struggling, and so I don't know why my face is all itchy this morning. She was really struggling, and so she felt like spiritually prompted to write my dad this letter. It was a long letter. And we left it there. And he sent her a text response that wasn't rude, but also was thanks, but no thanks. You're in my house, my rules apply. And so it was eye opening in that we realized, as much as we love our family, we just can't stay there anymore because it does and the way it comes back around to cleaving is here, act like you love me. To act like you love me. That's more comfortable. The way it comes back around to cleaving is that I knew that she stood up for something that her dad would have been really like proud, and I stood up for her. So my mom was like, "Why is Ellie all upset?" At first, I was like, "You let me deal with it," but then afterwards, I came back to her and I spilled my guts and I said, "This is why, and this is something that's really important to our family." So when it's a family value, then it builds up the cleaving when you're both working on it. Because I think if Eric had been there, I know if Eric had been there, he'd have been like, "This is not okay." In fact, I think he would have said, "Let's go to a hotel."
I probably would have
And it had
ripped the Band-Aid off on that
honestly
one.
didn't even occur to me until it was too late that maybe that's what we should have done. And so, I think that that's sort of that tightens our cleaving when I can stand up for something that is a family value, and when he can stand up for something that is a family value.
Well, because we've had conflict with my parents, and I've been put in a bad spot. But at the end of the day, I go, "Mom and Dad, you need to stay over there for right now."
Right, because it's about this relationship, the relationship in our house, the relationship with our children. Cleaving is more than just us cleaving. It is it's cleaving to your family unit, and that can be really hard because extended family is super super important. But I really feel like what you're building inside your house is what's going to make a difference in the world. What's going to make a difference in your children and their relationships. We've always sort of focused on, because of sort of the weirdness you've had with your brothers and sister, we've always sort of said that's not what we want. We want to make sure these kids have a good relationship, and they do. I mean, even our big three that have that I had with the practice husband, he was always trying to get them to fight for some weird, like, I don't even understand that. Almost like they were puppies in a litter, but they now, as they've spent much more time with me, have really come to a place of actually liking each other, which thrills me. it thrills me to hear Eleanor say, I miss Jacob so much. I can't wait for him to come at Thanksgiving. It thrills me to hear him say, see his text to his sister, because this was what was awesome. So we had this tumultuous situation with my family. The next day, he sends a text to his sister that says, I know how much that really means to you, and it's really sad when people are mean, and I'm really sorry. I love you. He's 17. And so that's because of what we sort of built in our home with them. And so it's about the family unit really cleaving. So
another thing I was thinking about today that we've had talks about is about being on the same page with discipline and things with kids, because I think my temperament, it causes me to not be on top of things as much, and being that you're choleric,
it challenges you to be on top of things.
It does. It tends to create a situation where I'm not enforcing things very hard, or I'm not, or I let things slide. And
he's way more chill than I am. I'm pretty chill, but he's like way chill.
And it's things that I know I shouldn't, and I know it's things that's causing a problem, and I know that they're things that is better for kids if I'm Johnny on the spot about, and then it puts you in a bad spot of you're the bad guy and I'm the fun guy, and that's not what we want, and that's not what we're going to.
Well, and what happened this week was not an on purpose.
No.
Like even though I was like, Samuel, stop checking out comic books at the library, get something else, and we had that talk, but you had kind of forgotten that we had that talk. And so Samuel's all excited. Look at all these comic books. And I'm like, son.
Well, and some of them are really
lame.
Like, why are you getting that? And
plus, we have the Comixology app. We have a lot of avenues to look at comics. You don't need to get them from the library.
And Soraya insists on getting books that I don't understand why she would want, because they don't.
She likes them because they have a dolphin on the cover, even if there's like no
they could
pictures.
Be like, she's 5 years old, she's not reading yet, but if it has a dolphin on the cover, it could be a 200-page book with no pictures inside. She just wants it for the cover. And then we end up with all these books, and they're not books that she can read, and they're not books that probably are for her age group for me to sit down and read to her. And I just go, oh, I don't want to fight with her. Go, what the heck? Go check out the book.
But so that's like his temperament's like, forget it, I don't want to fight. But my temperament's like, but wait a minute, we got to like make a standard. What are we doing at the library? We're not playing on the computer, which we've already really sort of established that. I don't even understand the computers in the kids section. That frustrates me. But
there's all these like 8-year-olds playing Minecraft at the children's section of the library, and I was like, wait a minute.
My tax dollars at work. And then, so we just have to, sometimes you just really have to revisit like what your values are and what it was that that you're okay with, and so we were like, wait a minute, we talked about this. And I was like, we talked about this. And he was like, oh yeah, we talked about this. So like, his temperament is like really placid, and then it's like a wave, and then the wave comes in and he fixes it. And so like his challenge is to be more ripply instead of like being placid and then waiting for the wave. And my challenge is to be more like placid. So
another image popped in my head as we talk about cleaving and about boundaries and things is how many times if there's a situation where all 5 of us that live in this house are together in public, often what happens is the 3 kids like crowd around Melissa, and then I walk like 5-10 feet away to give them space.
We used to call that "Who's Got My Boob?"
And if I'm actually walking next to Melissa, like Ellie will come in between us.
She's trying to come between us. She's 15. I'm like, knock it off.
And push and try to like practically push me aside. And then I'm like, these kids obviously need it really bad, so I'm gonna walk over here. And it's literally like these kids are like.
Well, I think that, and we sort of laugh whenever we go to any family function that has even adult children with parent situation. Like I watch my brothers and my dad, it's still "Who's Got My Boob?" All of it. Like when I watch Eric's siblings with his mom, it's "Who's Got My Boob?" All of the adults are trying to vie for mom's attention. So it doesn't get any different or any better. Mom has to put down the boundary and go, "I love you all, back off."
And I
Need
had
some space.
I had that situation in my family, and I ejected myself from it. I'm like, I'm not playing this
Yeah,
game.
when
If
you
this is
decide
so,
not to play the game, you decide, Mom,
then
I'm just going to sit over here.
then people get mad at you or think you're being a jerk. But it's like it's obviously more important to you guys than it is to me.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna put any energy to it. Now that's not me being phlegmatic, but I'm like,
No, I
if it's
know.
so important, and
Well,
that
it's sort of, I think it's really taking a look at our ego space. And with kids, with one of the things that's your challenge as a mom, if you, especially if you've got several kids and they sort of do the same thing to you, because mine always do. Like I have to have this talk on the way to church. This is how we're going to sit. And I go, if we're going to sit Soraya and then me and then dad, then Ellie. Ellie, if you want to sit closer to me, you can sit on the other side of Soraya. You know, we sort of go through every Sunday. And when I had 5 at home, holy crap. They would pass the sacrament and then somebody would have to get up and trade places because they all have to be so close to me all the time. I don't understand. But I do think it's making sure that everybody has their needs met. And so I spend a lot of time reassuring, I love you. And right now I'm going to sit next to Sam. Next time I'll sit next to you. And but the whole thing about the only time we actually get to walk together is when we're alone. Or when I say, your dad and I are walking together and we're going to hold hands.
or
You
we're
can
gonna,
walk in front of us or behind us. You choose, but you're not walking in between us.
or we're gonna have a conversation that does not need
Yes.
to involve you. You
And
guys
it
walk
is
over
okay
there.
to say that to your children. It is okay to say, I am going to walk next to daddy and hold his hand. Because the best thing that a child can see is a set of parents that love each other and a set of parents that sort of put that boundary up and say, this is what I want. And this is where we need to be together. And I think that that's the best way you can show love to your children is that you put your relationship first, and that doesn't mean that, kids are freaking out and crying and you don't attend to them or somebody's needs aren't being met that way. It means, though, that in general, this has to come before that. Because if it doesn't, then it's all out of whack and out of balance. And then this falls apart. So, and it's especially important for those of us that are attached parents to really realize that attached doesn't mean that they're connected to you all the time. Attached means that you attend to their needs. It also means that you attend to the needs of yourself and the needs of your partner, and that you're working together. It's really hard. I always see moms that say, I'm an attached parent. And I go, how's your husband? Is he attached too? Because you need to have 2 attached parents, 2, in order to really be practicing attachment parenting properly. Otherwise, you're constantly tending to their needs first and his needs second. And you need to really work together to make that attachment parenting work. And attachment parenting is way more than cloth diapering and eating weird. So let's see. Is it Dina or Deanna? I guess I'm just going to say Dina because I met somebody else the other day who was spelled the same way and I called her Deanna and she said, no, my name is Dina. So I'm hoping I'm saying it right. Dina. It seems like part of your successful cleaving comes from mutual willingness to have a meaningful conversation. Yes. Has that come naturally? Eric, specifically, do you enjoy deep conversation naturally, or has it been intensely cultivated? I sense a similar temperamental dynamic between my hubby and me. And the two.
I think we were having good.
Oh, she says Deanna. Okay.
I think we were having good, deep conversations from the beginning.
We were, but you have to realize too, we married and we were both over 30. So I think that the dynamic, well, and I think that even if you get married way young, you can be having intense conversations before then. I think it's about, and it's not about liking all the same stuff or anything like that. It's about caring enough about each other that you want to listen to what they have to say. And you know what? If I'm in the middle of something and he starts to talk, I'll say, hang on, because I want to hear what you had to say. Let me finish what I'm doing here. And because I want to hear what you have to say. And I expect that he does the same thing. Hang on, let me finish this, and then I want to talk to you. Because I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
But do you have any other tips that she, like, and when you say intensely deep conversation, are you talking about, like, existential stuff, thoughts about the universe, or parenting? Because I think that all things apply here. I guess we have all kinds of deep conversations.
Yeah. About lots of different things.
I mean, it helps that we are of the same faith. I think that helps tremendously because then our deep conversations, our like existential conversations, kind of go in the same direction. That helps, but they're not always. They're not. I mean, they're sometimes it's like Eric's like, well, this is what I think, and I go, huh, I'm not sure I think that. But that doesn't mean that it's like argument worthy. Um, but as far as like parenting goes, you know, often I'll say, look, I found this research, and he'll say, oh, let me see that. And he'll read it, listen to it, and then we'll talk about it. And, you know, because we're usually, the mom's usually on the front lines looking for that kind of stuff. And sometimes some of that stuff comes across your news feed, on Facebook, and we end up talking about it, and we go, oh, we both came to the same conclusion. So I think that's helpful. But I think that if you're in a situation where you're like really like looking for intense, deep conversation, I think you should, if it's not happening, maybe step back and go, is there something else that's not connecting? Because I do think that we can be as intense as we are together because we really like to be together. I go crazy when someone says wait, because then they are ready, and I have forgotten what I was going to say. Yes, your brain is like a sieve, I understand. So it's a wheel builder for when somebody says wait, just go, okay, I'm going to think about it. If you know you're going to forget it, write it down. Because it is a wheel builder, and I work with all of my more sanguine children or children that are in a sanguine phase in life to think about it and wait. Like Soraya right now, she's like, but. I go, that's your turn to talk. Just a minute. It's like, Sam's turn to talk. And she's like, but.
Do you remember when we saw that rainbow?
Yeah, because then it might be like, if I make Sam wait, it might be 5 minutes. It might be like, remember, yeah. I really, really, really want us to go find the flying unicorn car place. Yeah. You interrupted us for that. Okay, so next time, hold on to it. So, and she's getting way better. I mean, she's way better than she was 6 months ago. And I think that that's just because we really make them pause and wait. Pause, like, and say, excuse me. And like, they all have to say, excuse me, or I ignore them. So I start when they're little. Like, I started with her when she was 4. Say, excuse me, and then wait. And then when she says, excuse me, and we're having a conversation, I generally try to pause our conversation because I'm rewarding her for saying, excuse me. And she's waiting. Now, if she says, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, excuse me, I don't stop. I might say, it's Daddy's turn to talk. And I do that often. And you'll say, it's Mommy's turn to talk. And if you're both on it together, then that becomes a will builder for your kids. And that doesn't mean I put them off for forever. I find a spot in the conversation to break where then I can talk to them. And it's super helpful because one of the things because we have that going on in our own home, but gosh, if somebody comes to the front door, it's like they gotta have a circus show. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. Again, what are you doing? It was just a landlord. Why do you have to show them that? So I have conversations when the doorbell rings. Please act like a normal human being when I open the door, please. And say, excuse me if you need me. Like, that was last time. Because I don't know what Samuel was thinking.
Was the landlord when they
yes,
when she was
when
over
Cynthia
here,
came
and I wasn't here. But...
Yes. Let me show you. I'm like, no, she's not coming in our house. She takes our money. She's not coming in our house. So I'm like looking at him going, shh, shh.
What was it like? I'm going to show you.
Yeah, I don't even know. Can she maybe see my Mystery Machine Lego that I built? Nope. She can't. She's a landlady. Yeah, so make sure you put boundaries up. I know it seems like barrel of monkeys at our house, and sometimes it feels like that.
Well, I think about how you'll be super busy with something, and I might be like standing around or whatever, and they need something, and
I could be behind a locked door, and they walk right
past me, and go upstairs and go in and it's like and you're like, your father is perfectly capable of doing that. You need to go down and talk to him. And then I get like thinking, am I just seem grouchy? Do they don't think I'm
No.
going to help them? Do they not? Do they? You know?
They know I'm in the building. So Mom, you just need to say, go see Daddy, and get really good at saying, go see Daddy, even if you're not so sure about what Daddy's answer is going to be. Go see Daddy. Daddy can help you. Mommy right now is doing something. And Dad, Eric's really good at going, hey, get away from those stairs. You're not going to bother your mother. So Dad, you really have to get good at like sort of protecting her time. So in our case, it's often like when there's one day a week that he teaches and I work at home. And yeah, that's usually an interesting day because usually he's like trying to field them from the bottom. Like we need a baby gate. We have no babies. You may not cross the gate until Mom comes down for lunch.
Well, then we've had, I like it better when Mom teaches, and then people will dig their heels in.
That's just silly.
Figure that one
Samuel told me he prefers you as a teacher. Yeah.
Man.
See, I'm choleric, so my feelings were hurt for about 30 seconds. And then I was like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay that he feels that way. So I think really...
my feelings weren't hurt about Ellie. I was just like, I just want to get this done. I don't want you to take all day to do it. Let's just get this over with.
I know. She really wants you to just knit and sit next to her while she does math. Eric doesn't knit yet.
We're not gonna sit there if she has to take the ACT test.
Thankfully, I don't have to think about that for a couple of years. All is well. I hope that, I don't know, we're really silly this morning, but it's all good.
Well, we've had a lot of stress
Had a
relief in the
crazy
last
week.
24 hours.
And a lot of stress relief, yes. A lot of
Even
stress
though
relief.
there was a lot of running
It comes
around.
in interesting ways. One of the things I think is super important, and I'm going to say this just before we close, please don't forget about your self-care. We have, and I'm not sure where they are across the country, but we go see the chiropractor every week. And that can rack up if you don't use the kind of plan like we use. So we use a community chiropractor called The Joint, and they charge $29 a visit or $50 a month for 4 or something like that.
Well, we're grandfathered into that. They
Also,
raised
it's
the price,
$60 a month or something like
because
that now.
Yeah, they kept our price because we're grandfathered.
But that like helps everything. So we go to the chiropractor on a regular basis. Each of us goes to acupuncture at least once a month, and we're about to. And that's not just because we got tons of money, because we don't. Acupuncture could be really expensive too. Look up community-based acupuncture, $20 a visit. So we find ways to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, and that helps with the stress a ton. I don't know what we do otherwise. Like, honestly, I don't know what we do. So between that, taking care of yourself, self-care, and really working with your inner work and connecting, I think that those are like super important things. And connecting with each other. So we're going to talk more about cleaving next week and sort of your vows. And so I'd really like you to be thinking about that. I want you to be thinking about sort of like what that means to you. What does cleaving mean to you? And what does what do your vows mean to you? And if you're not married but you're just a partnership, surely you made some sort of commitment to each other, even like when you decided to shack up together. So think about that. What commitment do you have to each other, and what does that mean to you? Obviously, if you're taking Thrive, it's because you want to have a better relationship, an awesome relationship. And some of you I know are in really struggling relationships. So I want you to really think about what those things mean, because, I think about vows and I think that they can be something, like they're easy to forget. Because they're not words that you hear every day. So maybe think about that. Think about what if you had to write your vows today, what would you write? And how much do you love this person? And I know that sounds like a really silly assignment, but it's not just for moms. Dads, I think you should really think about it too. If you had to write your vows today, like what would you say about her? What would you say about your relationship with her? One of the sweetest things Eric said to me ever, it was in a Mother's Day card, the Mother's Day before Sam was born. So we have these 3 kids from my practice husband. And he was fathering them, and we were getting ready to have Sam. And he gave me the sweetest card, and it was, how much he loved me and how glad he was that he chose me to be the mother of his children. And that I mean, that was 11 years ago. It still stands out. So, or 10 years ago. So I think that you really have to think about, Dad, even if you're not eloquent with words, what would you say to her? And what things do you love about each other? So I hope that you all have a good week, and we'll see you next week. Still in the same state. I had traveling to do, but it happens between Sunday and Thursday, so the next week. So it's all good. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Do you have anything to say?
Nope, I think we're good.
Okay. Have a good week. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.